I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I see dead people.
Hasta la vista, baby.
You can't handle the truth!
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
So one of the things we're going to do is, because our fans, our rabid Reel Prof fans have been demanding more content.
All of Matt Green's family.
All of my family. Peace out. Love you, family. And
Did that just happen? Anyways, keep going. Sorry.
Yes, we want to do that. So we're going to start going back and doing some classic films that you know, love, and kind of reevaluate them from a biblical perspective. And this one is our first one. We're going with one of the probably most popular films of all time, 1977, George Lucas's Star Wars: A New Hope. So let's get into it, huh? So Star Wars: A New Hope. Again, none of us were, well, you were born in 76, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you need my social security number too?
Yeah, we'll get to your credit card information here shortly. I got some things I'd like to. As a matter of fact, some Star Wars memorabilia.
Yes.
I'd like to get up in my office. So let's talk about Star Wars: A New Hope. This is the quintessential Star Wars. It started everything.
Yeah.
Without this, you don't have the years and years of crazy, Star Wars fans, of which you're not crazy, but you are a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, I would say that first memories of being a kid and watching TV, Star Wars was the, I'm of the age where the beta tape.
Totally. Yeah.
This was even before the VHS.
VHS, yes.
The beta tape was put in to occupy me, right? So, that all the adults could do whatever.
Oddly enough, your wife still does that.
Yes. Yeah. Put on Star Wars, and I'm like, and I just remember
to get some work done.
Like Luke Skywalker, and just thinking as a kid, he was the greatest.
Okay, as a kid, Luke Skywalker. I always wanted to be Luke Skywalker. I want to be Luke Skywalker. When I got older, I want to be Han Solo.
I hated Luke Skywalker when I got older.
I want to be Han Solo. Yeah.
Like I gotta go to Tashi Station, pick up some power converters. Like he's always whining, right?
I just wanted to be Chewbacca.
Yeah. Well,
that does not surprise us. That does not surprise us.
Yeah. I remember talking with Dr. Beely and Dr. Halstead at lunch one time, and it's funny because Dr. Beely's been my mentor. He's helped me in so many ways. And so when it comes to Star Wars, though, he calls it reverse mentoring. And so we would go out to lunch for many years, and I would help him understand not just the original trilogies, but some of the other, the animated series and things like that, and Mandalorian in particular. And so we got talking about it a lot, and Dr. Halstead was not really into Star Wars. And so we were talking through like where we were when it came out. And I was 1 year old, so I didn't go to the movies. And Greg Beely was, I think he was 17 or 18, and he saw it in the theater. And
Halstead was 60.
Halstead, he was in his 30s when that came out, and I don't think he saw it in the theater.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's one of those things where, it is so iconic.
Yeah.
It has been around for so long, and
inspired so many different other the sci-fi genre. Radically changed. Yep. Again, what's interesting when you go into the details of Star Wars and Star Wars lore is Lucas lifted from a lot of other people too. I mean, he's heavily influenced by Edgar Rice Burroughs, Princess of Mars series. I mean, you can go read those books. Even the movie that came out a few years ago, you see, wait a second, did I see that in a Star Wars movie? And it's because Lucas had taken it from
I don't think there's anything original in Star Wars. It is so many things repackaged in a really brilliant way.
That's right.
And so you got Joseph Campbell and
A Hero's Journey.
and
big,
just
is a big,
so many things, and even the religious side of things is just a compilation of several things.
Let's get into that. Okay, so let's talk about what is kind of the central message, worldview of Star Wars: A New Hope.
Yeah, I think really A New Hope. One of the main themes, not just the only, but is hope. Right? It's in the title. You have this. The puny rebellion that has a 1 in a million shot to destroy the Death Star, and they hit it, right? And the only way that this hope exists is because of the character that has been newly inducted into understanding the Force. And being able to use the Force, because every other shot that every other pilot made was off target or
Yes.
they couldn't get to it.
That's right.
And
That's stinking Porkins.
right?
Couldn't-
Porkin. Oh, poor guy. I mean, unfortunate name. And,
okay, you want a really crazy story though, real quick?
Yeah.
So the guy who played Porkins is also the same guy in Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark, the military guy who's sitting there and says, "Top men." That guy. That's Porkins.
That's funny.
Okay, but I
Yeah.
digress. Okay.
I think a bigger theme. So hope is like
Yeah.
the easy one. A bigger theme is finding your destiny.
Right.
That is the from R2D2's decision to go on the mission, even though C3PO is like constantly nagging him about the what's he doing, to Luke deciding if is he going to join Obi-Wan and go into the fight, and then you have Han,
Right.
and I mean in particular. This is what Han says: "No all-powerful force controls my destiny,"
Right.
and yet in the midst of it, like the concept of he's got to choose his own destiny, right? He's got to decide if he's going to jump in and help for the first time in his life instead of being a selfish guy. He's got to decide, is he going to come back for his friends?
Right.
So I think destiny, choosing your destiny, that's really the major theme, in my opinion, of A New Hope.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at Lucas. So Lucas has a weird kind of history within religion. And I mean, he kind of identifies as a bunch of different stuff. It's like a weird combination of Buddhism and so you can see that reflected in his
I think
films.
what people don't really think about most of the time is that he's a product of the 60s and early 70s as he's thinking about the story, writing things down, which is a huge influx of New Age.
Right.
So he's really New Age with Buddhism, Taoism, like those kind of isms find like kernels of their worldview show up in an amalgamation of what the Force is and what Jedi do. And
Yeah, I
things
mean,
like
you
that.
had a real push of postmodern kind of thinking in the 60s that led to a lot of stories that then you started to kind of see, again, a Han Solo. Typically, you would have just had Luke in this film as the hero and then Vader as the bad guy.
Yep.
But then you bring in the Han character who's a mixture. He's kind of that anti-hero.
Yeah.
Which, it was very prevalent late 60s, early 70s.
Well, I think even the wardrobe shows, right?
Right.
Because his
the mixture
original
of good and black.
his
Or
original
good
is black vest,
Yeah.
white shirt,
Yes.
type of thing, blue pants, and
Yeah.
so it is this, and Luke is in all white,
Right.
and you
And
see
Leia is as well.
Yep.
Yep.
And then you start to see a trajectory within the franchise because Luke moves from white to then
Gray.
Empire Strikes Back is gray
Yeah.
to then Return of the Jedi is black, right? And we'll get into the Return of the Jedi and why that black is, I think, essential to understanding what Lucas is attempting to portray. And yeah, I think you do have a very visually stunning show that has a lot of different worldviews competing and trying to be packaged in a way that is
Classic sci-fi.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's just if we could just do nothing but sci-fi, I'd be happy. But
All right, let's talk about what characters are portrayed as, or what's portrayed as good and noble in this film.
Courage, sacrifice, faithfulness, right? You kind of see that throughout Princess Leia, Obi-Wan, Luke Skywalker. Leia kind of has this resilience about her, even leadership in some ways, or in a lot of ways.
Which wasn't, again, to Lucas's credit, wasn't typically shown within
Yeah.
a film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually they're the damsel and
Damsel in
she is
distress.
kind of a damsel in distress, but we see immediately
Yeah.
that she's not your classic damsel in
She's
distress.
feisty.
Yeah, right.
yeah, aren't you a little short to be
A stormtrooper.
Stormtrooper.
That's right. What?
Like that's
oh,
the first thing she
Yeah.
says when she's getting
Yeah.
rescued. It makes fun of the little short guy.
Yep.
Can I tell you one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars is when they're in that control room and then Han Solo, right? Everything's fine. We're doing okay. We'll be there shortly. And he's just, I don't know why that one
It
like
is.
probably
Yeah,
shouldn't be
it
my
is.
favorite scene in
No,
all
it
the
is-
Star Wars,
It is
but
one
it
of
is.
those. Ford occasionally has some moments where it's
Yeah.
just kind of hammy.
Yeah.
He does in Indiana Jones too, and that's definitely one.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh huh.
I love like the little things of when they're in that room, when the robots are in that room, and the stormtroopers come in, and the one stormtrooper bangs his head on the by accident bangs his head on the thing that comes up. Like, if you pay attention to that
Is that
scene,
right, huh?
yeah, he comes in, he's like clunk like that, but like they don't draw attention to it, but it's hilarious. Like
That's
those
funny.
little bloopers are funny. But I've watched it way too many times. So
Yeah,
it's fine.
yeah, it's one of those movies we've probably all seen a million times. That's why whenever you start quoting stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, I can finish the line.
Right.
Okay, so that's what's portrayed as good, noble, awesome. What's portrayed as like ignoble, evil, bad in the film?
Yeah, I think you have the Empire
Yeah.
is like the biggest.
Like-
it very undertones of Nazi Germany, right?
Third Reich.
Yeah.
I mean, all over the place.
Yeah, there's so much drawn
Even the
from that.
costumes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so I think I think Vader is a character that he has no mercy, no compassion, no thought about how others would be impacted by any decision that he makes. And I think you also have Grand Admiral Moff,
Yes.
where he will destroy an entire planet, and he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like to him, it's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see then how that affects Ben Kenobi with the Force, right? And this, like, there's millions of voices crying out all at once.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think those are, just the genocidal greed and power hungry empire and the characters connected to it.
Yeah.
And that Darth Vader can just kill a guy just because, and so start choking a guy, force choke, just because he doesn't like what somebody says. I think those are all typical of people who exploit and are evil and greedy.
Let's talk about like Han Solo in specific. Here's a character who kind of has the lines like you were kind of alluding to earlier, blurred lines. He's your classic anti-hero, who kind of initially kind of operates with kind of self-interest, and then we see a shift. So let's talk about Solo.
Yeah, he definitely has a me first attitude, right? So when he's talking about how many credits he's going to get,
Right.
and he's like, once they leave the table, he's telling Chewie, "Oh man, this is going to set us up. We're going to be, and so it's all about getting what he can get, and continuing to move forward and be ahead of everyone by potentially even, abandoning them. And then you have the character arc that, the very end of the movie where Luke needs help. No one's there to help him. Everybody's gone.
Except the scoundrel.
Yep.
Mhm.
And Darth Vader is on his tail, and here comes the scoundrel to be the good guy.
Yeah.
And so you're always wondering, where is Han in his loyalty? And not just in this movie, it carries over into Empire Strikes Back. Like, where is his loyalty to? But you start to see the movement of moving from a self-serving kind of a guy for self-interest to self-sacrifice, to being willing to.
Which we see obviously really portrayed in Empire.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so just kind of something to kind of think about, kind of wrap us up here. Here's a question I got. Is the Force depicted as a clear moral compass, or does it represent a more complex balance between light and dark?
It's completely blurred. The more I thought about that, kind of that idea, because here it is: anybody can access the Force, and they can use the Force. Well, I shouldn't say anybody. There are the select that can access the Force.
Are you going to the new what are they, sequels where anybody can be,
Anybody
can
like,
get the Force.
So, no,
it
that's
just
why
doesn't
I
matter.
I
Just a
caught
random
myself.
kid sweeping
Yeah,
the floor.
exactly. Just some random.
In my defense, I caught myself. So not anybody can access the Force, but those that can access the Force, they get to choose how they use that Force. Darth used it for evil, right? Luke, as he learned to use it, Obi-Wan, as you saw, it was all for good. So the Force it's almost kind of like this, neither good nor bad. It's up to the individual person and where they lie and how the Force is used.
Yeah, it goes to the heart of, like, for the Force in particular, is directly connected to Taoism, and Taoism is the flow of the universe that surrounds and pervades all things. Tao, which is basically the Chinese word for way. Tao takes care of the universe, and you have to feel the Tao. You have to move with it, and that is the Force in a nutshell. Is that it is It is both light and dark, yin and yang, which is again another part of Taoism. And so it combines both of those. It's not just good, it's not just evil, it's the balance of both. And that comes out in the whole struggle of the Star Wars franchise, is that there is the dark side that seduces, and there's the light side that defends and protects. And so there's more about the Force that is explained in the next movie that helps kind of get it going in a little bit more nuanced way. But the way that Ben Kenobi shares about that, it surrounds us and it penetrates us and all that is directly lifted from Taoism.
Yeah.
All right, so next episode, we're going to talk through Empire Strikes Back.
My favorite.
And then Return of the Jedi. So click on the next video. Thank you for listening to Reel Profs, a production of the Center for Thinking Biblically. To support this ministry, please visit thinkbiblically.org/donate. To learn more about the Masters University on-campus and online undergraduate and graduate programs, visit masters.edu.